feel like I could be a lot more helpful right now. Documenting all of this, I think, is also important.
Could always be more helpful.
Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Colin, and next to me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
And as always, we're joined by our producer, Richard.
Oh, hey.
It's a long, sticky hello. Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you. While you may find that having is not so pleasing a thing, after all is as wanting. This is not logical, but it is often true.
That is a weird way to introduce a guest.
Spock. It's illogical.
Oh, I see. You got it because it's logic.
Yeah, more geek stuff.
I was going to say because, are we saying that it was the anticipation of this episode is better than actually getting to this episode?
Oh my
It's a weird way to get to the guest.
Yeah, especially when you're tied up on your cell phone. Anyways, today we have a special guest in the doctor's office, the chief of comics himself.
Hello, gentlemen.
My dad.
Hello.
My daddy is here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm never going to say it like that again.
I was going to say, I'm like,
That's creepy.
There's two here?
Who's your daddy?
Oh, no. This is going terribly.
He's in the right place.
This is good.
End of episode.
No.
Yeah. My dad, senior DC is here.
DRDC SR.
That's right.
We were talking
it.
about this before you guys got here. I was like, what do we call him? Do we call him Dr. DC Senior?
I like that. I don't remember what was the winning thing for my daughter.
There's Dr. DC Jr., which I think was one of them, but there was also just the name. That was
Kyle.
Like, Kyle, yeah.
Yeah, that was the tie. Yeah, so normally we do like a news segment when we've got a guest on. Like to just talk about where the comic interest came from. I mean, people that listen to the podcast, I've said this story before that I got my comics initially from you. So now let's dig even deeper into the past. Not to insult you,
but where did your comic love come from? Yeah.
I've been a comic guy from way back, and Superman was my man.
Shit.
Fuck you, Colin.
Put me on the couch with this guy for real.
Yeah, you're the anti-Colin.
No, he was the guy, and I'd be the kid with the sheet tied around his neck, running around the house, jumping off furniture, being Superman. And then I got into the Flash, and again just zooming around the house as the Flash. And when I got the comics, there was ones it was mostly I have to say there's some on the Marvel. There was Iron Man and Fantastic Four,
right?
But Superman, the Flash, Legion of Superheroes, they're mine. I love those guys. And I don't know why they haven't brought them on a show or made a movie of them. There's so much depth there. There's so much they can do with it.
I think there's a tiny bit of Legioning happening on Supergirl, but I imagine you have to watch through a bunch of other stuff to get to it. Yeah. But no, that's okay. So Flash, Superman, Legion of Superheroes were kind of the main ones. And I know that because that's a lot of the stuff that I got from you. But what is it about those ones that you think hooked you? Because there's so many characters.
There are, but you know what it was? At the age that I was into comics, it was like pure escapism. It's not that I had a hard childhood and this was my my way of surviving.
When you were in the coal mine?
Yeah. No, none of that. But again, it was just like pure escapism. You can just imagine yourself as Superman or imagine yourself as the Flash going around saving the day. And yeah, that's what really got me into it. Is just that element of being something that you can never be, but you can hope to aspire to be.
Do you think that there was a difference between the style of writing or the style of stories in the DC comics you read as opposed to the Marvel ones? Because I have some of those old Iron Man ones that you had, but I know just from us talking that the Flash is your favorite and the Legion's your favorite. Other than just maybe finding the powers interesting, is there something different to you about the approach?
At the time that I was into it and reading them, I really didn't analyze what was it about the writing of the stories or anything. It was just looking at them being badasses and catching the bad guys.
Yeah.
It was again, it was never really the stories. It was just reading it for the enjoyment of watching them do their thing.
So then now that some time has passed, I have some of your old comics. You don't really like buy comics and read them concurrently, but occasionally maybe like a graphic novel or something like that. But what has maintained your interest in general in superheroes? Because you do watch like the TV shows, you watch the movies and things like that. So what is it now about it? Is it the same thing, or do you actually look for the stories now? Or?
It's the same thing. It's still the escapism, but I'm just a lot more critical. I'm like more of a critical eye, more cynical about how they're produced or how they're portrayed.
Right.
That's. I guess
you're sitting next to the right guy then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm the most cynical person probably on the planet.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Certainly on this podcast.
Because I look at it and I say, like, why are they doing that? Like, God, if you had half a brain, you'd do it this way. Why is it that? Why is it that the creators of the show just don't kind of create the universe and let you live within it? There's always stuff coming out of left field. They're always introducing like a new power, and I said, be like Tolkien. He builds his world, he builds his universe, and everyone exists within it, and nothing crazy comes from the outside that wasn't already there. And so that's one of the things that bugs me about modern comics, is that the writers just either they write themselves into a corner, or they there's no connection between one writer and another writer, and things get so balled up and so convoluted that there's no way out unless you have these massive infinite crises kind of series to kind of get you on the track again.
Colin, that was like one of your criticisms, like in the early days of the show. I think we did an episode on retcons, and I was talking about Hawkman and how like messed up Hawkman is, and your first thing was like, did they just not read the books that came before?
Yeah, that was something that really frustrated me. It was like people not passing each other along the writer's notes. Like,
exactly,
who's steering the ship here?
Well, so all of this is a big reason why the theme for this episode is what it is, because I know that, just like you said, you don't like it when new things happen that weren't sort of don't fit the previously established world. You kind of just want the rules to be set up front, and then everything continues that way. And I kind of agree. So yeah, our theme for this week. Wait, what was that?
What?
Was that me?
Well, no.
Did you soundboard me?
You've done it now.
Wow, that's the most condescending thing you could have soundboarded me saying. Oh my God, no. Jesus, we're off the rails.
I'm sorry, were we on them?
Well, fair enough.
Well, not today, that's for sure. I feel like this is a weird segment for you to introduce me to my real dad.
You think he's your real dad?
With the amount of similarities here with the cynicism, I'm feeling like
Except
quite logical.
one core difference.
What's this?
He's a Superman fan.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And a father. Yeah. Wait, was that me?
You bastard. That's amazing. What was that one?
Was that me?
Yeah.
Classic.
He's stealing our essence.
Well, pretty soon we won't have to do the show at all.
I instituted a no photographs rule because I didn't want him to take my soul, but he took my voice. I feel like the Little Mermaid.
By now, there's enough different words you guys have said that you could construct an entire episode
100%.
without either of you.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
He's very
Is this
lazy,
just the
though.
prototype so we can replace Colin? Good God.
Anyways, this week's theme is Pocket of Logical Inconsistencies.
It's like a weird, cumbersome title, but I do have just a tiny story to justify it.
Of course.
When I was growing up, Dad would come home from work, and like during the day, if he's like waiting for something to, like finish downloading or whatever he was working on, he would just like read other things or read articles just about like anything, like stuff in the news, and then he would write like notes on like a post-it note.
No, it was on the back of my business card.
Yeah,
that's
sorry.
the only thing I ever use my business cards for.
Yeah, that's right. Business cards. And then he'd stick them in his like breast pocket. And then at dinner at home, he would just like reach into his pocket and take out these things. And he'd be like, did you hear that, in Africa, they have a problem with beetles or something like that? It was like, so we called it the pocket of knowledge. So for today, because he wanted to talk about where the logic breaks down and when comic book creators break their own rules, it's the pocket of logical inconsistencies.
That's so weird. I didn't think that doctors had to have business cards. I thought you guys just walked around just being doctors all the time. Did you guys go to the same college to kind of like keep keep that family business
We
alive?
should talk about that.
Don't worry about it. I didn't go to Colonel Sanders College of Chicken Knowledge.
Are you implying I did?
Quick, soundboard me out.
I love drinking powdies.
Amazing. Well, let's get on to some questions.
Well,
Or not.
Sorry, yeah.
the one thing that I'll start off with, that two things that really bug me. One is, how come Superman's muscular? What can he lift to build his muscles? He should be this little 98-pound, thin, weak-looking guy.
Like Richard.
But
Yeah.
Stop it.
It's funny, actually. You mentioned that because
Pumping up this guy's ego.
that's right.
but really, really strong.
Yeah.
But what can he do? We've seen him in the comics pull planets on a big chain, move worlds out of orbit. What can he possibly lift? Oh, and his neutron star material key to the Fortress of Solitude.
Right.
What can he possibly lift that would build his muscles?
Yeah.
So that's the one inconsistency. The other one that bugs me on these shows, especially shows like The Flash,
what grinds your gears?
he's got like the. I'm getting to it, Dick. Can I call you Dick?
Yeah, no.
Oh, we do.
Anything, sir.
Oh my God, he does listen to the show.
So long as you open with sidekick. Call him
The
sidekick.
Flash has this super speed. He'll rush to the scene, and then he'll stop about 20 meters away from the criminal and say, "You better give yourself up this time." And then, of course, gives the criminal time to do what he has to do, the super guy to get away, to foil the Flash. Why don't you just go in, zoom, 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 flip him off to Arkham or wherever they take him.
Iron Heights.
Iron Heights, and put him in the special lockup. But
I do kind of agree with you there, but I have to say it's probably like for television way less interesting. There's a guy holding up a bag and then he's just gone, and then the episode ends.
but it makes more sense.
Yeah, and it is kind of like the Bond villain thing where it's like,
Yeah, totally.
let me tell you, Mr. Bond, this is what I intend to do.
It's totally that. I do kind of agree with that one. Now, to your Superman point, Colin, you were nodding the whole time.
yes.
So
The only thing that he could probably lift to help him gain muscle is my criticism of him.
that's
Because it is heavy.
It is heavy. Yeah, in one episode, you proposed skinning his dog.
Did I really?
Yes.
Not Crypto.
Yeah,
When did I do
you
Oh,
that?
proposed
man.
skinning Crypto and then putting the skin over a dog-shaped like replica made of Kryptonite in order to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
That's cruel, man. Can I sit somewhere else? Do I have to sit beside Colin?
yeah, the seating is limited.
Now, I took that Superman one, though, and I actually like threw it to Reddit just to see what people would come up with. And some people were like, yeah, totally agree. Doesn't make any sense. Other people came back as if they work out with Superman. They were like, obviously he uses red sun lamps and just works out like a normal person.
Oh my God.
Like, I got some heated response.
It is
From Reddit?
It is
Yeah,
Reddit.
right. There was that. What was another one? There's a couple of like Morrison stories where there are these machines that are meant to simulate like the weight of a sun or something. But like, I don't know how you could build that. That's its own little logical problem. But yeah, there were some people on Reddit that were like, totally, that's what a funny observation. And other people were like, you idiot.
Well, you wouldn't want to be under the red sun lamp and then there's an emergency happens.
Yeah. Because then it takes more than just getting out from that lamp to get your powers back. That's true.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a workout buddy to flip the switch on those things.
And then,
Yeah.
and then if he
Quick,
was under,
yellow sun.
if he was under the red sun lamp, he'd come out all like red and sunburned and skin peeling, and it wouldn't be a very appealing looking Superman.
You imagine being saved by that guy? You'd be like, no, Jesus, get away from me.
I'll keep falling.
It's fine. Death is, inevitable.
We're basically pitching Colin's perfect Superman story.
I love it. Why are you just testing them out now?
I was testing them out before, but they weren't working, and now it's fun.
Now it's working too well.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that you've stolen our voices.
That is true. I am notorious for fucking this up.
Colin, you just said that. Stop saying it, Colin. Yeah, let's get to some questions.
So we're going to go over to Facebook.
To the face and the book. Go into the Facebook.
Don't get embarrassed.
Why didn't you soundboard that?
You sounded so sheepish.
It's like I'm worried
He's
that
so much bigger than you. He could kill me.
What, and I couldn't?
No.
I wouldn't.
That's right. Because it would make your fucking podcast.
we'd all get Thursdays off.
Well, we at least have to finish this podcast before we do anything.
That's right.
Yes, yeah. That's true. Let's get through this, the final episode of the Dr. DC podcast.
Run.
I know. Oh my God.
Adam Upper asks, the most obvious one, Superman to Clark Kent. No glasses to glasses. What the
this is
fuck?
This is the question, right?
I got this one.
Okay, all right. Let's have it.
I was in the supermarket doing my shopping, and this guy goes, "Hi, Paul." And I look around, I see him, and I got this quizzical look on my face, and he goes, "Hi." Still quizzical look. He says, "John from next door." Oh, hi, John.
Great neighbor.
It happened.
Like literally your neighbor.
Literally my neighbor. And it happened the next week, and I saw him in the store, and the same thing happened. So the
2 weeks in a row with the same guy.
That's really funny.
The answer to this is you're seeing someone out of context.
The thing is he wasn't wearing his glasses. That's So I can tell you the glasses make a difference.
Totally.
So at this point, we should note that Paul is wearing glasses.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah, you won't get that joke unless you get that context.
So yeah, it's out of context.
Start laughing.
That's how you know they're father and son.
You see Superman, and you don't see Clark Kent because it's out of context. So that's my answer, and it's the right answer. Move on to the next question, Alan.
I'll also bring up another.
Shit, who's in charge on this thing?
He can be in charge of anything.
That was hard for me to tell beforehand.
Yeah, I'll bring up an example, which is I think that's been in like popular culture very recently. Mm-hmm. Zoe Deschanel with and without glasses.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Right?
With and without bangs, too.
Without bangs, that's the bigger one.
Yeah.
Without the
both
bangs.
That's true.
Both very
Totally
attractive, but very different.
Which, of course, most important thing that you look for.
I think, you can tell by who I put on this podcast.
Because
Thank you.
No Bangs is her sister, Emily Deschanel.
That's true.
They look very, very similar.
Good old No Bangs Deschanel.
No bangs. Well, in comics, there's like a similar...
Is that like a Ricky Martin knockoff? What the hell's going on?
No bangs.
No bangs. No bangs. Oh, baby.
In the comics, I forget precisely what issue it is, but there's a moment where Lex Luthor is basically told Superman's secret identity, and his response is that's not possible. He refuses to believe that someone as powerful as Superman would choose to live as like meek, mild-mannered Clark Kent. Like, because he's such like an egotist and such a megalomaniac, he can't imagine not
anybody with that much power,
not lording your power constantly, basically. So
he thinks that it's actually Bruce Wayne
or something, right? So yeah, I mean, there is something to that. It's like where you're not looking for him. Yeah, I mean, now because you're typically the one that picks this apart, is that like sound logic to you? Do you think that the Clark Kent Superman thing makes sense?
So here's the thing with what are you doing over there? Yeah, here we go. Fucking dickhead. So
I have the power.
On one side, like, I hate to disagree with Paul on this one, but kind of like,
God.
it's pretty soft.
Don't
But on the other
do
side,
it, Colin, as I'm gripping the back of it.
on the other side, my neck I've got Superman strength in my neck, so I'm all good. But on the other side, he is quoted as being faster than a speeding bullet. So if he's always moving real fast, you're gonna have a hard time seeing his face, I think, is the other side of it.
I think that was a thing in Superman comics for a bit too, that they implied that he was like blurring his face by moving it
Like the
super quickly.
Flash?
Yeah, I think in the 90s that was a kind of pseudo explanation,
or like an anonymous person in a news report.
You know,
yes, yeah, he can pixelate himself.
But remember, it's not just the glasses. It's also that little curl of hair on the forehead.
Yep.
You know, that's like the bangs, right? With the bangs, without the bangs. With the curl, without the curl. You can't tell them apart.
Also,
Sure.
Clark Kent wears those big boxy suits. You can't see that sick V that he's got going on. What? Sorry, I blacked out. What happened?
With those tight pants, though, you can't see that sick D.
Jesus.
Ah, good
Let's
one.
move on.
George Bishop asks, the large age differences it would take for each Robin to get from their young Robin to older versions in sync. Bats would be a lot older.
So there are 4 main Robins in continuity. Damian Wayne, the current Robin, is still a child. But Tim Drake, the Robin before him, is going off to college. And then there's both Jason Todd and Dick Grayson before that. So, yeah, I mean, the point that George Bishop is bringing up is like, how old is Batman meant to be? Because I think generally in the comics, he's sort of written in probably his 30s right now, if I had to guess.
Well, how many years does that really go over? That's the room.
Well, this is the thing. I think if he started Batmaning in his early 20s, I think...
have you seen the previews for the next season of Gotham? I'm pretty sure he starts it when he's 13.
Let's not get started on Gotham. Like, I think technically the math kind of works, but there's a whole... He brings up a good point, which is that, like, if he's only been Batmaning for, like, 10, 15 years, he's plowing through child soldiers.
Well, you know what's really creepy is that he
Plowing through
uses
child soldiers.
for sure.
I shouldn't have phrased it that way.
But he
many regrets.
basically goes through youthful wards. He gets rid of one youthful ward, gets another youthful ward.
Yeah, you're not
He likes them
youthful.
young. Batman likes them young. There's no doubt about that.
Holy child service, does he like to get little kids?
Holy clergy, Batman. Yeah, I do think, though, that technically the math would work out, but it is like a quick succession. But, like, Dick Grayson, I think the thing that's maybe weirder is that Dick Grayson, like, leaves being Robin and becomes Nightwing when he's a member of the Teen Titans, which, if you take that name literally, he has to be a teenager. So somewhere between the age of 13 and 19, he moves out and lives on his own and fights crime out of his own apartment. Like, that's kind of messed up.
He doesn't have the Robin's Nest.
I bet that's what he calls his bedroom.
Tim Drake has a Robin's Nest because he was Red Robin.
Fuck. Okay.
Sorry, did I take the wind out of
Yeah, a
your
little
sails
bit.
But yeah, I mean, is this
Teen Titans?
is this one that ever like bothered?
No. Jesus. No.
Is this one that ever bothered you guys? Just like the what age they're meant to be, or like another example is like all of the Flashes, because there's Jay Garrick and then Barry Allen and then Wally West and then Bart Allen, and all of them have been adult the Flash, but there's supposed to be all these like age differences. Has this ever been like a thing that you've like that's bothered you?
Logical inconsistency, right? Nobody ages, or they age up to about their 20s or 30s, and then they stop aging.
It's the Jesus effect.
I do think that's the thing that George is touching on, is that there's like, you see the younger characters age, but they do seem like as if they're catching up with their mentor. Sometimes there's a story thing, like Bruce Wayne was like rejuvenated when he gets like trapped in the Dionysium and it brings him back to life, or like Barry Allen was in the Speed Force, so there's no time, so he comes back and he's the same age, but Wally's grown up. Like sometimes they kind of write an explanation, and I think there's always a way to do it. But yeah, I mean, like eventually.
So at some point, Barry Allen's going to be married to a grandmotherly aged Iris West.
I mean, if he keeps dipping into the Speed Force.
At least with the Flash, there's enough like time travel-y in this that it's just like, I don't know fucking what year it is. Like, sure. But like with Batman, I just kind of assumed that like that type of line of work, like, I mean, they're only really doing it for a couple of years at a time. So like by the time that he's like ready to retire, he's like 50, and then Batman Beyond, right? So
Well, how many of these like circus trapeze artists can you really find in one city?
that's the great thing about circus folk, is that nobody cares where they go, so you can just keep just going through them. They got small hands. That doesn't matter.
We're really painting like the serial killer portrait of Bruce Wayne.
The appropriate one.
Very,
I mean.
very okay
Yeah, I
with
go
this.
down to the circus by the rail yard and
Find a vulnerable child.
I make sure their parents are killed in front of them.
Yeah.
I swoop in. I'm the hero.
I like to Batman them. Yeah,
Oh God.
he knows how to make a hero.
I don't think we fully answered that question, George, but the short answer is the reason that the ages seem to catch up is that technically in some cases they do, and it's about like either chemical rejuvenation or time travel.
or some Ra's al Ghul sort of nonsense that,
like Lazarus Pits or things like that. Yeah, exactly.
Also, shut up. How about that?
Because Speed Force.
Because shut your mouth.
Such a welcoming, inclusive podcast.
Just like, whatever. How old are you even, George?
This
God.
is like episode 61. They know what they're getting at this point.
Yep. We'll just coast from here.
Yep. So
I've
let's
been coasting since 5.
dip in over onto Twitter.
Really? You're literally phoning that in.
With a phone.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's the
said,
point.
literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to.
Yeah, but nobody else can see that.
Right. Again, critical to get the joke. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Dave Rossi, our dear friend Dave Rossi has a question.
Yeah, let's have it.
Batman's bag of holding air,
I mean,
utility belt. Where exactly is that grappling gun?
Well,
Would you like to know?
there's a reason they call it a grappling
That's
gun.
literally the question.
well, I mean, the joke from the 60s Batman, and they play up the campy factor, is that he always has precisely the tool that he needs. He's like, good thing I brought the bat, like, merry-go-round stopper. He's going
It's like go-go gadget.
or the bat, shark repellent
shark
bat.
repellent.
Yeah, the shark repellent bat spray.
Oh, and he's hanging off the
helicopter.
rope and he's
Wait,
like,
you've seen the Batman 66 movie?
oh yeah, it's funny as hell.
What the fuck?
You're always surprising me, Colin.
Yeah, I had a weird grandfather.
That's
Let's not
leading-
get into that.
Oh, it's not like a Richard style thing. It's
Okay,
like,
good.
Yeah.
Is the utility belt though still like a thing that you guys like find silly? Like obviously the 60s.
it's a thing that doesn't really come up as much anymore. Like I never like see it referenced that often. Like even in like the movies that I've been watching, like they just don't talk about it.
I don't feel like he carries as many outrageous gadgets. Like he's got batarangs and smoke bombs and a grappling gun.
And you never really see him take them out of the belt. You know, the belt is there, but it's just it's in the background. You don't see him actually use it.
And you never see the sad like other side of them. Is at the end of the night, he has to go back through all the alleys he was chasing criminals and pick up his batarangs and put them back
He's
in the
rich.
rubber
He doesn't need them.
pocket. He's be like, oh,
You
No,
do
I always wondered that about Spider-Man. I know it's the Marvel thing, but who goes around and
Cleans
with
up all
sweeper and
the-
cleans up all the mess, that
all
he's
the
left
web
behind?
over all
the webs all over.
What's
the
his
city.
What's his aunt's name again?
May.
Yeah, she's just walking around downtown like dusting. She's like, God, this goddamn kid.
I'm sure that she's used to cleaning up all the webs around his room. So.
Oh, teenage boy joke.
I mean, most people have gone over that. Like Spider-Man is basically about puberty.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Shooting webs everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think most writers just play up that Batman is super prepared so that in any given instance, you assume he's loaded his belt with the specific tools he needs. He's not just constantly carrying something in case Mr. Freeze shows up or in case.
It's like a Swiss Army bat utility knife.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, to me, it is something that kind of bugs me sometimes. But there was a relatively recent book with Scott Snyder, and he kind of he played up the bat gadgets. He had bat knuckles that like came out of his gloves. They were shaped like bats. Like they'd really fuck you up if you got punched with these things.
I just have this idea of like Batman being like, oh no, like Mr. Freeze show up. Hold on.
wrong belt. Oh.
Shit. No, just 2 seconds.
It's in the trunk.
Oh, fuck. It's in the back. Can you just, Robin?
Can you help?
Robin.
Robin, zip me up.
See, and I like to think
A
about it.
little lower, little to the right.
I like to think about his cape like a trench coat. Back in the day, guys would like sell watches out of their trench coats. He's got a trench cape.
Oh, like that he's got a utility cape.
Why not? Why
That's
not?
Desert Batman.
That's storage stuff right there.
Want to buy a batarang?
That would be yeah, I'm into that.
You know,
That's the later years when he's going through bankruptcy and he hasn't paid his taxes in 10 years, like he's a rap star or something.
That's true.
There's definitely, I think, a market within the DC universe, like in the fictional world, for people to buy the kit or the memorabilia or the
Have you ever gotten any of that stuff?
or the left behinds of superheroes.
Have you ever gotten any of those things though? Like any of the utility belt stuff? Like his little like the batarang?
like from the fictional world?
No, I just mean that like have you ever bought any of this? Because they sell a lot of those little pieces. Like
No, because I do try to like restrict my buying basically to comic books because otherwise that's trouble.
because like I remember like a friend of mine when we were in college like spent like a good day just trying to figure out how to throw cards like Gambit. So I could totally see like which we fucking
I
did.
have a
put
friend
one
who
in the
can do
wall.
that, yeah.
It was fucking rad. But so I could if I could get myself like a hands on like a batarang or something.
Did you learn how to do that because you do that creepy Cajun voice and Gambit is the perfect
Oh,
fit?
you know what I'm talking about, eh? It's not just a pack of cards in my pocket, you know.
Oh, God.
before we move on, I was like looking at the sheet with the questions on it, and I thought of something that's kind of related to the Superman Clark Kent thing that bothers me, is that Green Arrow has that super distinctive Van Dyke goatee, and then he's also, as Oliver Queen, the mayor of Star City, and no one just goes like, oh,
Hey.
is that the mayor in a tiny domino mask and a Robin Hood hat? Like, no, I'm sure it's two different guys with the exact same blonde
That's
goatee.
insane. Yeah.
Like,
you know how popular those blonde goatees are.
I think more than any other secret identity, the Green Arrow one is the one that I find the most ridiculous. Like, how are people not constantly?
But here's the thing, though: if he's famous in that universe, right? Like, if he's famous in that city, then I bet those like goatees have gotten super popular.
Yeah, but you know, like when you see people that are like, I modeled this after, like, I really liked Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. I got the Tony Stark. It never looks like.
No, but I mean, his isn't that like designy, is it? Like,
I mean, it's a little like sculpted, but
and some of them, I guess. But for the most part, it's just like a fucking like rectangle on his face, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I guess.
So I mean, that's not that hard to do.
I suppose
You should do it.
Are you just as upset about that as I am about Superman Clark Kent thing?
I think so, actually.
Because that's stupid.
Zoe Deschanel. That's all I'm going to say.
What?
Just like 100%, like glasses. Come on.
No, that's
No, I think the goatee
hey
is
Doc.
worse than the glasses
Doc,
one.
take off your glasses.
Same fucking guy.
Oh my God, where did he go?
I'm not invisible.
Oh my God, who's this?
I'm somewhat different. That's the point. He completely disappeared from the room.
No, I just figured at that exact same moment, some weird guy, some bearded bald man just came in front of me.
Oh, I'll just sit here if you don't mind.
One of the things that gets me too is only superheroes are protecting their city. Everything happens in the city. It's like the city is this little enclave that is separated entirely from the nation, from the world. I'm going to protect my city. Why doesn't the government get these guys and go over and finish off the job in Afghanistan, or finish off World War II? You know, why is it that they just restrict themselves to their city? The heck with the rest of the country. The heck with the rest of the world. I'm going to save my city.
The criminals do that too. Sometimes only to like the extent of a neighborhood. Like in the original Black Lightning series, it was like, who controls Suicide Slum, the shittiest part of Metropolis, and that was it. It was like it was about who controlled like 15 blocks.
Yeah, but those dudes can't fly.
Yeah, but then
Like literally, they're like petty thieves and criminals. Like that's not an issue.
But some of them have superpower. Look at Gotham. Like when was the last time that like Mr. Freeze or like pick one, Poison Ivy or
he's
someone
just chilling
had
out,
an
give him a
aspiration
break.
beyond Gotham, right? Like it's always like I'm going to control Gotham's underworld, and then I'll stop.
Why not go pick a city that doesn't have a superhero? You have it made there. Like, why are you always picking the cities that have superheroes?
Yeah, go to Moose Jaw. Hello, Moose Jaw.
Oh, nice cape you got there.
Eight.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, there's a villain in town.
Well, it's not really much of a villain as much as this Ted just got. I've had a few six packs, and he's not doing very good, but it's fine. He'll sleep it off. Don't worry. Oh no, he punched him.
This is just
that's not going to be good.
This is just like our old mundane pitches, like Superman fixing the copier of the planet and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to like go off track.
Little bit drunk guy in Moose Jaw is a villain. I like it.
I was thinking about Green Arrow is making me angry.
As it does.
Are you good? You calm down now?
Well, we'll see.
Okay. So Warlock Thanos podcast asks, Inconsistencies. How about Hawkman? Come on.
Problem?
I see that you also have a podcast. Do you have troubles listening to ours? Inconsistencies. How about Hawkman, or is that a whole episode on its own? Doc,
Hawkman is a whole episode on its own, but I want to throw this over. I'm positive that I've brought it up before. Can you, Dad, tell me like roughly like Hawkman's deal?
Papa, can you hear me?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Really?
I just wonder how he gets the wings into his suit. If he's just going to be the ordinary guy, how does he get the wings into the suit?
Because they're made of nth metal, so he can manipulate that with his mind. But
They just look like feathers.
is it just me, or do you say that a little condescendingly?
Oh, can I put you over my knee?
Yeah, someone's going to get a spanking.
I don't know anything about Hawkman.
so there's two kind of competing versions of Hawkman. The Golden Age one is he's Carter Hall, and he reincarnates. He and Hawk Girl, Shaira Saunders, they reincarnate. They were Egyptian prince and princess, and were stabbed with a like magic / alien knife, and then they reincarnate. In the Silver Age, when they were rebooting a bunch of characters, then Hawkman and Hawkgirl were alien cops from the planet Thanagar, where everyone had hawk wings. And then there was years and years of writers trying to reconcile the two together. Technically, the two separate versions are still separate. There is was, because he's dead now, a Thanagarian Hawkman, and there is the reincarnating Hawkman. Those inconsistencies are just what we talked about before, though, which is like people not keeping up on the continuity, or they think they're tying them together nicely, but it creates like a whole mess of problems with like the timeline or things like that.
You know, in a way, I can't entirely blame the writers. You've got like a core of, I don't know, a couple of dozen writers and all these things. And in the outside world, you've got 35 million geeks that are analyzing to the micrometer.
What do you mean?
Anything that they put out.
Are you saying that we're
being
specific, picking things apart?
It's no surprise that somebody's going to find an inconsistency somewhere.
Yes, and that's true. But these are pretty big, like glaring ones. But no, you're absolutely right. Like there's no feasible way to, at this point, to read 80 years worth of stories.
So how does a whole planet of organic beings have wings made out of nth metal?
Well, those ones are slightly different. Sometimes they were like actual wings, like the aliens themselves had wings, and then that also got retconned. So then the nth metal was a rare thing, and only a certain class of Thanagarian got wings. Call it. Well, but this is it, right? This is the thing that pissed you off the last time we talked about Hawkman.
Thanks, Warlock Thanos podcast for that question.
We will do like a Hawk episode.
Can we not instead?
At some point. Well, we'll time it when you're... whatever you
Speed
do.
Force him?
Yeah, I'm sure it won't take long. That's fine.
Yeah.
The episode or
both?
Anyways, next question comes from Puffed Cheek Pastries.
Puffed Cheek Pastries.
So what is the
nice.
deal
Thanks.
with Mopee? Is he real reason the Flash is around? And he also is in Marvel. What is his deal? I love that question. What is his deal? Yeah, people say that, I get a kick out of that.
Mopee. Now, Dad, you were reading Flash comics in like the 60s and 70s.
That's right.
Time of week.
This may have been slightly before that, but I was wondering, did you ever come across, it's like a single issue where this character Mopee is inserted into Flash's origin story?
Not at all.
He's meant to be this like...
Is he sad?
No.
He's bald and he makes this weird electronic music.
That guy's name is Opie.
He is kind of bald, I think, but he's...
Yeah, he makes electronic music in the 90s.
No, that's
Moby.
Yeah.
Does he have a strip?
No, that's Mobius.
Oh, yeah.
God damn it.
I like where your head's at, though.
I'm not going to ask one because I'd like to ask to get through the question.
Sure. Wow. That's the first. So
Just means he gets out of here quicker. That's the problem.
Mopee is meant to be like this extra dimensional imp. And in this single issue of a comic, I think he only ever appeared like 3 times. And in this one issue, it's implied that as the lightning storm was happening, he guided the lightning to hit Barry Allen and the chemicals and make him the Flash. And then that was immediately forgotten and never brought up again. But it was... I mean, it was eventually, like, I think categorically denied because now Barry Allen was the lightning that hit Barry Allen. Like, that's the new version of it. But yeah, for a bit, like, technically the Ken was this weird imp was like, nah, and he just, like, moved the lightning bolt over. I don't really know that that's, like, an inconsistency so much as just a plain old retcon. You could maybe make the argument that behind the scenes, Mopee still guided Barry Allen as the lightning to hit Barry Allen. Maybe it's still canon.
And then he guided the same lightning to hit Wally.
Oh, yeah, I mean, could theoretically be. They never got there in comics because it was like a thing they tried to sweep under the rug. But Yeah, you could definitely make that assumption because Wally initially got his powers by just exactly recreating the experiment that Barry was working on when he got struck by lightning, and then also got struck by lightning. And as far as him being in Marvel, I tried to look that up because I obviously don't know Marvel. There's no character called Mopee, I think, in Marvel. But what I did find was a bunch of articles that were trying to guess if Stan Lee's cameos were all one character and if he was Mopee, this imp, which is a weird thing to pull because it's from DC. But
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't think that's the case. And I think Guardians 2 sets him up as one of the Watchers because there's like
Oh, really?
there's like a
Who's Stan Lee?
yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Like the idea is in this
That's why he keeps showing up.
in this one short scene as like Rocket and Yondu are kind of jumping through space. They jump through this one thing and Stanley and a bunch of the Watchers on this planet goes, and this one time I was a FedEx guy. And like he's
Really?
so he's like implying that all of his cameos, he's the same person, just like constantly appearing in the world.
Oh, wow. That's really awesome.
Yeah. So that's in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Remember that part. That's awesome.
It's such a short, it's like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's like good fan service.
Yeah. I like that. That's awesome.
Is that on Netflix yet?
It might be. Yeah. I own it if you want to borrow it.
No, that's okay. I'm just saying, if I can easily
I'm
stream,
not that interested.
Yeah, I'm like, if
It's like, whoa, this got real.
if I'm like, if
I just
I'm
wanted
like
to make it sound like I was going to watch it.
If I'm like running out of like docu-series and stuff like that,
I'll just reach into my bag and here, I'll hand it to you.
Oh,
That's
shit. Oh, you brought it with you.
Oh,
God,
I
that's
always
not
have it
his
with me. I'm like Batman.
Oh, my God. Put it away.
Prepare.
Oh, the second thud was so sad.
Yes.
So we're going to jump over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram.
Oh, that's
take
new.
some pictures and answer them.
Wow.
I did that one before.
That's a new. Really?
Yeah, one other time.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Except I did it after an ad the last time, and you were like, no, you forgot to say we're back.
Oh, yeah. I got hung up on.
Yeah.
The consistency.
The doctor getting hung up on some consistency. I don't get
This
it.
is almost like what my dad was saying about nerds getting caught on small details.
Like I feel like deep down, your dad is a nerd, but he'd beat the shit out of you if you weren't his son.
Like if we were in school at the same time.
He would shake you down for your lunch money.
He would be reading the Flash and I'd be like, oh, you like the Flash? And he'd be like, yeah, you're a geek.
Stuffs it into his locker with you.
God, I used to do that.
Yeah, you did. That's right. I love this.
And he saw himself as the hero the whole time.
Oh my God.
That's right. The real Josh Gill has a question, and you're just going to leave that one alone.
May the real Josh Gill please stand up. Please stand up.
Gill.
Gill.
What's your favorite / most ridiculous instance where a writer has used a comic book logic to get themselves out of a sticky situation?
This is a perfect question for me to just like flip over to you guys. Colin, you've read a few comics, and some of them definitely employ like comic book, like Deus Ex Machina. Can you name like the one that you
honestly, that Morrison one just stupid.
So you're talking about Ultra Comics.
Yeah.
You definitely mean like most ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Because that was the one where he is the comic book, so he
Yeah,
kind of goes back to the first page to get young again, and then
the part where it's like, don't read past this, and like, oh God, I should have just stopped there. Why didn't I stop, Paul? Why didn't I listen to the stupid instructions?
Because the doctor
Fucking doctor.
prescribed it to you, and you have to follow the doctor's
And you got to
orders.
take your pills till you run out.
you got to run the full course.
God damn it.
Okay, so I mean that's the one you consider the most ridiculous. Do you have like a favorite sort of comic book Deus Ex Machina of the stuff that you've read?
Not that I can think of offhand. I can think of one literal sticky situation that we all are unfortunately sitting around with right now.
Oh, you mean when the doctor shook up all the beer and then I opened it and went everywhere?
Yeah.
That thing?
Don't worry about it.
I liked the writing of that one a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
Dad?
No, I'm
Papa,
fine.
can you hear me?
No, you're fine.
No, I'm fine.
I shouldn't have sat you next to Colin.
I love how you're just like, Dad? Like,
Papa?
Is that you?
No, like is there like an instance you can think of sort of like ridiculous?
He said he was going out to get cigarettes. 12 years later, he returned.
And he never answered the question.
We'll be together then.
Is there like a thing that stands out as like that was like a comic book solution? Like it wasn't a they hadn't earned like where even in TV or anything like that?
No, can't think of one.
Are you being difficult right now?
I honestly can't tell if you can't think of one or if you're just being shitty.
No.
So one that that bothers me is one we've already talked about, but it's the one that like always kind of irks me a little bit. It's because Speed Force, right?
Yes.
It's the fact that like they had to solve so many problems over and over and over again because of what another writer did with the Speed Force and time travel, and they kept constantly having to like go back again.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we meant to do this whole time, and it's just like, no, you didn't.
Or like new Speed Force powers or things like that.
Well, that creates so many inconsistencies throughout the entirety of the Flash's like storyline. Like, I mean, he like your dad brought up a good example too with Wally, like, and they don't explain that, but it's like, well, technically, like, wouldn't that be the same thing? Like, how he got his powers, like.
Yeah, it's like the Speed Force also chose Wally.
Yeah,
conveniently.
Does Wally not take his wife on vacation to Speed Force? What's going on?
No.
It doesn't.
Wow. He's like, I'm going on a business meeting to visit with my other family. Or I mean, Speed Force.
Sorry, you think the Speed Force is like where heroes keep illegitimate families?
It's like a Days In.
Yeah, why not?
During a conference.
Jesus Christ. You fucking maniacs.
I don't know if this answers your question, but one of the things that gets me about
Nor does he care.
The Flash and time travel is Reverse Flash. You kill him, but a past Reverse Flash then shows up and causes
like
havoc.
from elsewhere in the timeline.
Elsewhere in the timeline. So do you actually
bullshit.
have to go back and kill the Reverse Flash every second backwards until his birth? Because there'll always be
another
one somewhere that can come into the future and cause havoc. So can you actually ever kill
the Reverse Flash?
The Reverse Flash.
I mean, I think narratively, you're probably right that you can't, because they're always going to want to bring him back, and there's always a way to do it. Although, Eobard Thawne currently has been, let's just say, decisively killed for now by Dr. Manhattan. But yeah, I mean, certainly in like the TV like realm, there have been multiple versions of Eobard from different points in the timeline, and all of them have ended up killed. But he like still just I think part of it too is whether or not like there's a past version of you currently in the Speed Force when one version of you is killed. Like the Speed Force insulates you a little bit.
This kind of goes beyond the Flash and the Speed Force. Any comic that employs time travel,
Right.
can have this paradox where nobody ever dies. The people live perpetually because there's always an older version that can move forward into time.
Yep, that is true. I think that's a pretty big inconsistency. It's definitely like a narrative contrivance to like bring in a character you want to use, right? But another writer killed them in a really like possibly great way, and then you're like, I just want to undo that. Yeah, that's definitely one. The one I was going to bring up was in Final Crisis. There's the Miracle Machine, and Superman has to he whistles a note and wishes for a happy ending, and then he gets it.
Oh, come on. Does he have to throw coins in a wishing well?
I'll give you 3 guesses who wrote that story.
Santa Claus.
I'm fine.
Colin?
Yeah, I nailed it with Santa Claus.
I think you prefer Santa Claus to this guy.
Oh, it's not. It's Morrison.
It's definitely Morrison.
Fucking Morrison.
It's so funny. I mean, as anybody who's been listening knows that my brother has been going through our back catalog, which is really funny because now he's gonna eventually catch up and hear about I've been talking about him. But he started like sending me random questions the other day that reminds me of this episode that we're doing, where he started reading Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
And he's like, they say that it's 13th century Metropolis 700 years ago, but then it's drawn as the future, and he's just like, I don't get it.
That's part of that story, though, is that like worlds and eras and things are colliding.
He definitely just was very confused by it.
Well, hopefully he keeps reading and then that gets cleared up.
You.
Yeah. Jesus.
Usually confused?
Oh, so mean.
Yes. All day long with that.
He also wants to know where Colin went on issue 39.
To mind his own goddamn business island. To visit my other family in the Speed Force.
Yeah. You went to the Days Inn in the Speed Force to deal with your illegitimate children.
They're legitimately illegitimate.
Yeah, I think we answered that one.
Is there a second part of that question?
Oh, there's a big second part of this question. And I feel like Josh Gill being so handsome, he should not be able to ask questions like this.
What, like we're giving him too much?
Or he's too smart to be that
Like
pretty too?
he has too much privilege?
Like he's being pretty cynical about a guy's looks.
Oh, in this question. Well, let's read
Yeah.
the question. Yeah.
He asks, if Metamorpho can manipulate himself on an elemental level, why doesn't he manipulate his appearance?
Oh, dropping shade.
And what, become Josh Gill? Come on.
That's right. If only.
There can only be one.
Yikes. We talked about Metamorpho last episode. He's the element man. He can, his name was Rex Mason, and he gets turned into this creature
manipulate that name.
That is, he's kind of like ugly and multicolored and like purple and orange, but he can sort of shapeshift. Like he can literally change his shape.
But he's got the confidence of a hot girl.
No, he does not. He's super sad. He's very self-conscious. And he can also change himself into any element like found in the human body. Basically, he could become breathable air, or he can, become iron, or whatever.
Fart air.
Sorry,
He could become liver.
I guess if that counts as an element.
Let's beat him up.
Actually, liver is an assemblage of molecules made on different atoms.
What? No! Oh god!
No, not the lager.
Is that what you sounded like as a 12-year-old?
No comment.
Paul, is that what he sounded like as a 12-year-old?
No, I won't go there. He didn't sound like that.
Quick sidebar: I was super into Lord of the Rings as a kid, and
you were.
I desperately wanted a nickname, but my real name is monosyllabic, so like there's no way to shorten it. So I went to
As he told everyone at school.
it's monosyllabic, so that's. But I legitimately, in like grade 4 or 5 or something, I went into school and I had been reading Lord of the Rings, and someone was like, "Hey, Reed," and I was like, "Call me Strider."
Of course.
And then was mercilessly teased about it.
Really?
Oh my god!
By the kids or by your dad when you got home and told him that story?
No comment.
Okay.
I never
Can it
heard
be-
that story.
No son of mine.
He's leaving. I hear the car starting again. So the thing with Metamorpho is, even though he can do all of those things, he can't change his appearance. Why he can't do that?
Speed Force.
Well, I mean, you say that, I'm trying to avoid the answer, the crappy answer, which is also the real answer.
They
which
didn't
is
write that?
because magic.
Oh.
Like he has like a sciencey power because it's about like transmuting elements, but he gets his power from this thing called the Orb of Ra, which is like a mystical artifact.
Yeah.
And so the short answer is like he's kind of just like cursed. It's just like a magic made him ugly, but he can do some cool things. There's not really too much more to it than that, which is like such a cop out. But that's like kind of the thing with what we're talking about this episode, is like these things don't really have good explanations.
Well, I think like now they're writing things with better explanations to them, but a lot of the like older school stuff, like they're just trying to like patch holes, and like it's just this sinking ship that they're just trying to figure out how to patch enough to like get to land. But at the end of the day, like these things weren't written to like have this level of explanation, or wasn't written for adults in a lot of cases.
Well, and this kind of goes back to like what you were talking about. You when you were reading comics as a kid, Dad, you were reading them and you said just because they were fun. So going back like later and reading those same comics, or even like modern ones, are you able to just like appreciate the fun, or is it too aggressively like frustrating now to see someone like on the last page be like, and a wizard did it, like tie it all up?
You know, it's funny, reading the comic books, as you've given me some graphic novels of the Flash to read. And I can go through those, I can suspend my disbelief and I can enjoy them. But it's when I watch it on TV or I watch it in the movies that I seem to be more critical about what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it. I'm saying you live in the world. there are physical laws in the world, and you shouldn't be able to violate. Well, of course, they can go faster than light.
But the thing with superheroes,
yes, but
it's like violating the physical
beyond
laws.
the superhero thing, there still are physical laws in the universe that seem to not apply, not just within their own powers, but whenever they want to accomplish something.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden, the laws of nature, the physics don't apply.
Yeah.
And that's what that bugs me. I can. It's funny when I'm reading it, I can fully just go with it and enjoy it. But when I see it on TV, it just stands out too much.
I think those shows in the movies,
error.
I think the shows in the movies kind of aim for like a slight level of realism, just because it's live action, right? So like they wear clothes people wear, and they like go to coffee shops and things like that, and then they also have to like open a portal to a parallel Earth or run in a tornado.
I think it's one of the, but there's also that one benefit outside of Marvel is that, I mean, these aren't Earth cities, so that doesn't necessarily have to follow always by our rules.
Oh, right. That they're different cities. Yeah. So like, right. It's not set in New York. Be like, there's no pizza place on 31st.
That's not the original race.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess they could dodge some of those bullets. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
One that always irks me, I think, is if Lois Lane is falling from the sky and Superman catches her. Like, what kind of cradle action has this guy got for his arms? Because like physics dictate that she's like in pieces.
Oh yeah, like he would have to fall with her a bit to
his
slow
arms
her
would literally
down.
have to like. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know this is the Dr. DC podcast, but I'm going to weirdly recommend a Marvel comic to.
Jacques Hughes.
I do not know the issue number, but there is a very specific Spider-Man comic in which the Green Goblin drops Gwen Stacy off like a building or a bridge or something, and Spider-Man like shoots the web to catch her, and that breaks her spine. And Spider-Man is responsible kind of for the death of Gwen Stacy. So she
doesn't come back as like an Oracle type character.
She doesn't return to life for a very long time, like weirdly long in comics. That was one of the deaths that actually stuck. But that's precisely what you're talking about.
I mean, at least
like the idea of
webs
the
have
momentum.
some give at least. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, if anything was going to get written, it should be more like a bungee cord, right?
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, it's precisely that thing, the idea of the momentum. Yeah, Superman has to fall with Lois, so she doesn't just break over his arms when he catches her. Weirdly, I actually think they show that pretty well in Batman v Superman. She gets kicked, like pushed off the building by Lex, and then when Superman shows up, he's floating her all the way down. He doesn't just catch her and fly back up. He catches her and they continue descending all the way down.
That's the thing too, is even if he did grab her, then he goes quickly back up and just like breaks her neck.
Just,
like 12 G's.
Organs and
Well, but doesn't he go back up and grab the helicopter?
No, he doesn't grab the helicopter. He does fly back up, but just by himself. He puts Lois safely on the ground and then flies back up. And then weird Jesse Eisenberg Lex goes, "Oh boy, do we have trouble up here." Because that's a weird line reading.
Oh, on that note, the Dr. DC podcast will be back after this quick break. Hey, residents. It's producer Richard here. Just wanted to take a quick break in the middle of this podcast to talk about our amazing sponsors, Great Lakes Grooming Co. Just want to talk to you about a couple of different products that I actually use almost every day. I just used a peppermint lime lip balm. It's awesome for chapped dry lips. It smells really good. You don't get that weird sort of like thick goopiness that you get from some chapsticks. It's great. It's super affordable and definitely something that I cannot sort of exist without. The air is very dry up here and I definitely need a lip balm all the time. The other product is the Noble Selves hair styling cream. I've got pretty thick hair and I tend to have a hard time finding hair products that work really well. Either they're too thick and they get sort of like stiff in my hair and feel really hard or whatever, or they don't hold strong enough. And then I have to put a ton of it into it. So it becomes expensive as well. This has like a medium to light hold, but honestly, it's got a super soft feel and it actually does the job that it needs to do. It holds my hair in whatever position kind of I want to put it in. It's perfect for everyday use and casual styles. It is a water-based styler. You're not getting a ton of those terrible chemicals that you would with some of the off-the-shelf stuff. Because of that, it washes out super, super easy. Great Lakes Grooming is meant to be easy to use, ready, rain or shine. It's one of the only like sort of styling companies that I actually can continuously go back to, and it's something that I used before we even got a sponsorship. All their products are purposely designed and environmentally responsible in Canada. So if you're here, great, little much less shipping. If not, it's totally worth the cost, and it's actually super affordable. If you're from America, you got that American dollar, so it'll even cheaper for you to buy. But they like to say it's ready for adventure wherever one may find themselves. So whether you're where we are, up in the Great Canadian North, or down in the American South, wherever it may be, you guys can definitely count on these products to be great, no matter how you need to use them. And for you lucky residents, we have a 10% off that Great Lakes Grooming is going to offer on any regular priced products. All you have to do is go to their website, www.greatlakesgrooming.com, and just use the promo code DRDCpodcast. So remember that website again, www.greatlakesgrooming.com, and just use the promo code DRDC and then just podcast. Now back to the show. And we're back. Hey.
Great ad.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm glad we just did it now.
And we know what it sounds like.
That's right, we do. That's right, we do.
If there was an Oscar for ads for podcasts, for sure we'd win that. Maybe it'd be a Grammy.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, before we move forward, it's time for that hot new game that's sweeping the nation. What it's worth.
It's already such a long segment.
What's going on?
It's a new game.
Okay, what are the parameters?
So the parameters of the game is I give you two options, and you tell me which one you think costs more.
Oh, so we're playing
This is Price is Right. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
but not because legal.
Right. Yeah.
lawsuits.
So everything is in US dollars.
God, how shitty it would be to get sued
But
by
we're not.
Drew
We don't have to
Carey.
guess the actual value.
No.
It's just-
You just have to think of what costs more.
Okay. All right.
So the first option,
I thought the game was called What It's Worth.
yeah, but the rules are what costs more,
Oh, okay.
right?
So the song should have been What Costs More.
I couldn't find that song, so it's what's worth.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Okay.
So what costs more? Is it the budget for the 2016 movie Suicide Squad, or the cost to build the 1912 Titanic?
It's got to be Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I'd go with that.
I think they spent like $200 million on marketing or something insane.
No, we're just talking about the actual filming, not the
And they weren't
marketing.
even worried about
it still has
icebergs with the boats.
It still has to be that. When they built the Titanic, you could probably build a boat for like $13.
And they built it in
If you
Ireland,
put lint on the
too,
counter,
so-
you could get a loaf of bread.
Well, though both were absolute tragedy, that hot piece of fucking garbage trash Suicide Squad did cost more at $175 million. Titanic actually only cost $174 million.
I assume that's like adjusted for inflation.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I was gonna say $175 million in 1912. What were they thinking?
No, I
The
think
whole thing was made of diamond.
it was actually only like about $7 million.
Or what were they sinking?
What are you thinking about?
Nice.
On to the next question. So what costs more? The Canadian average university tuition, or the cost for the new book of comics number 1, 1936? Today.
I would assume it's comics. What do you guys think?
Sorry, which comic?
It's called the New Book of
The
Comics.
new book of comics. It's an annual. It's a annual that DC used to do every year.
It is from 2 years before Superman, but it's that
1936.
I'm gonna say that.
You know, if you're looking at like an average tuition around
like
$50,000 or so, 30 to 50, and comic books, rare ones, regularly go for like way more than that. I'd probably go with the comic.
So actually, it's the university tuition.
What?
Just like I said. Yeah, I got that one.
Though not too bad.
You better fucking get this.
At $25,000.
Okay.
Less than what I paid, but it is the average.
Yeah. Yeah, that's way less.
That's right. And the highest that the rare early DC annual goes for is $19,000.
Interesting.
Not too bad.
I got that one.
Yeah. Yep. There's no editing needed there. You got it right.
All right. Next question.
Stop squeezing my hand.
You're hurting me. Shut your mouth. Next question. Is an Apple Watch made entirely of kryptonite?
Okay.
Or how much Dean Cain was paid for the entirety of all 4 seasons of The New Adventures of Lois and Clark?
I mean, the game is what it's worth, and that performance is probably not worth what he was paid. That's right, Dean Cain. I know you're listening. I'm coming for you.
Oh, don't worry. We are.
I guess Dean Cain was paid like a crazy amount for that. I'm going to go with Dean Cain. What about you guys?
Well, if you think of like kryptonite as a really rare element, it's
Sure.
got to be worth a ton.
Right.
So on that basis, I'd go with the kryptonite.
Kryptonite, okay. So it was the Kryptonite Apple Watch, which
son of a bitch.
which comes in at around $1.5 million. Superman issue 331 says it costs actually less than radium, which costs about $25,000 per gram.
Interesting.
Dean Cain was only paid $250,000 for the entirety of all 4 seasons, which comes at around $60,000 a year.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
No one liked that guy.
He got paid less than like a pretty well-paid school teacher in the north of Canada.
So sorry. So for 4 years
Yeah.
of a primetime TV show
for
that
4 whole years.
4 years of a primetime TV show that people
Yeah.
watched,
4
Yeah.
months.
he made $250,000.
Yeah, so the first year he
That's
was
like playing in this.
If it's assuming that he got a raise through that, his first season,
that's right.
been barely above the
So, I mean,
poverty level.
He was an actor on
$40,000.
TV being paid that. That's like being a professional football player and being in the CFL.
100%.
Yeah, you also have to be a gym teacher.
Yeah, you have to. He must have had a side gig.
So from what I found was he was apparently
they did taping in the summertime.
He was like a house painter.
Yeah.
he was only
College
paid
pro.
$60,000 for the first year, and then by the 4th year he was got a hefty raise of $15,000.
I mean, maybe I just don't know that much about TV production, but that seems really
Or
low.
Dean Cain. And you're going to come for that guy, man? Give him a break.
I don't think so. Next question.
Meanwhile, Terry Hatcher made like $2 million an episode.
I bet Terry Hatcher made more
She
money.
did actually make more than
Got
him.
all the
Yeah.
money.
So next question. Fuck Dean Cain. A Batsuit worn by Christian Bale was actually sold, which he wore in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, or 4,000 signed photos of Dean Cain as Superman.
It's got to be 4,000 photos.
It's 4,000. He's got to make up the shortfall from actually being on the show, so he's signing all these goddamn photos. It's got to be the Batsuit, even if it wasn't washed.
Probably especially if it wasn't washed.
Colin, what do you think?
It's got to be the Batsuit.
I'll go with that.
That's right. It was the Batsuit. The Batsuit came out at around $250,000. Dean Cain, after signing 4,000
10
photos,
cents a copy.
they were only sold for $4.99, which means it comes out to around $240,000.
Oh, it really like undervalues his work as an actor that all he had to do was sign 4,000 photos to make the same amount of money that he made in 4 seasons of TV.
That being said, next question. What costs more? 1 bottle of Renuyu cream or the minimum price to book Dean Cain?
You're really harping on Dean Cain.
Wow. Like guns blazing, yeah. Renuyu cream, you mean like from the Clayface.
That's right.
Yeah. It's got to be... Wait, what was the Dean Cain one?
The minimum price to book Dean Cain. So like at 2 at events or a convention.
He's probably still got all those loans to pay off, so I imagine his fee's pretty high. I'm going to say...
But he comes with his own signed photos.
Right, yeah. I'm going to say Renuyu.
Does he do balloon animals in backyard kids parties?
It's Dean Cain. I'm sure he'll do whatever
I
he
actually
needs
can't
to
remember
do.
in the episode. They do say what that Renuyu is worth, but I can't remember it offhand. I'm still going with that.
I'm going with backyard balloon party Dean Cain.
Right.
It was actually Dean Cain, which comes out at $50,000.
yes.
Renuyu cream was actually free. It was an experimental thing. It only cost Clayface his life.
So what is it worth?
That's right. That was everyone's favorite game at Sweeping the Nation. What it's worth. All right, we're back.
I like how into these games you're getting. I really love it. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Colin, you having a good time?
I can't believe that I was right, and then how you delivered that, but it only cost his life. We really started paying the writers for this show much more recently, so it's showing. The material is really showing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's definitely is showing. So where are we heading?
We're heading over to Email Town.
Check out the email. Check out
Why are you so embarrassed? Just do it good.
I know he's really like pulling back. Like
He listens to the fucking show.
I know.
He knows you're a geek. Go for it. We're going over to email.
Who are we talking to?
Email.
Sure we are.
I'm bored of him already. Hideki Takano asks, if someone uses a time machine and travels in time, why don't they end up floating in space or in the wrong city? The Earth would be in a different position in the solar system in the past.
I love this question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're not wrong, I guess. I don't know.
I love this question.
Oh, you're accidentally burned in the sun.
Even though, well, you'd never go quite that wrong. The Earth never passes through the sun.
But it'd be cool if it did, though, right?
Sure, it'd be cool if you would.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically saying if you travel through time, shouldn't you be in the exact same point in space? And therefore, unless you time it for like exactly when the Earth is like back, you're either like in a mountain, or you're like
It's like the first time you played jump rope on the school grounds. You're like, oh god, when do I jump in on this motherfucker?
yeah, you got to time it just right, precisely.
You know, be the one that ruins the whole game.
Sweep the leg.
I don't know the theoretical physics of time travel. Like if we got Neil deGrasse Tyson on this, I don't know. Space time are meant to be one thing. Like, would you also travel in space if you traveled in time? Yeah, would you travel in space if you traveled in time?
Well, actually,
That was
Like really good.
if you keep it short and don't say too much, that's a pretty good impression.
thank you very much.
Oh, we lost.
And we're back.
What do you guys think? Would time travel reasonably work like Hideki is saying, where you actually have to time it for where everything is in the exact same place again? Or is it implied that you also travel in space?
I think just dumb luck. Just go for it.
It's a good question, honestly.
I really like this
There's
one.
a couple of good examples of that, though. When you look at any show that is sending someone back in time about 10 minutes and you see them reversing through everything they've done,
Right.
they're moving where they moved forward, but they're moving through it backwards. So they end up at the same spot that they started
The
at.
person traveling in time is moving, not just everyone around them?
Well, both. I think he's just,
Well,
yeah.
If you're going back in time, you're watching
Going back in
everything just
time.
kind of go back, and they
Right.
end up at the point they're at. So I think that the space time as four dimensions together would account for that. It'll always kind of bring you back with the Earth. You're not separate from
The Earth.
the Earth itself.
When you go
It's
back,
all
the
part
Earth
of
goes back
system.
as well, right? It's all part of the system, man.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, it's not like you're like disappearing entirely and then reappearing.
A great example of this, not DC.
That's called teleportation.
The
not time
X-Men. You're talking about
Like Days of Future Past?
what's his name? Fucking Portal dude.
travel. Yeah, that's his name.
The X-Men.
What? Like Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
So he's passing through a portal and going into another spot. But I mean,
But that's space. But he's not traveling in time.
no, but the Earth's moving depending how long that he's in that, because he goes to another dimension when he travels.
Except that he does explicitly say, even in the movie, he needs to be able to see where he's going, because he freaks out when he has to teleport into the cerebro chamber because he can't see where he's going. So he even says he needs to have like a point of reference,
Good point.
which, if anything, I think actually
Of reference.
plays more into Hideki's thing, that if he doesn't have the ability to reorient himself, he actually would end up stuck in a wall or something like that.
I think the real issue is traveling forward in time, because it technically is somewhere you haven't been.
And there's so many versions of it.
Yeah.
You don't know which future you're ending up in.
But this is talking about the past, and it's also talking about time, not space. So I think that Paul's onto something here.
Time and relative dimensions in space.
where it's you're not disappearing from space,
Yeah.
and you're not disappearing from time. You're just literally traveling back
Moving
through the
through
steps you've been in already.
yeah, but what if you're going through forward? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, yours is whatever. That's not the question.
I think, like, in general, I agree. When I look at a time travel story, I'm I expect they're also going back in relative space. But I wonder if the actual, if the actual theoretical physics is like what he's saying, where if you were to create something that was capable of traveling through time, if that's a calculation you'd have to make, is like also the spatial thing. It feels like one of those things that might be like scientifically the case, but in comics, it's like that's way too much to keep like track of.
The old movie, The Time Machine, from H.G. Wells, with Rod Taylor, when he goes through time forward and he sees the city disintegrate and the landscape change, and then when he's in the future, the Morlocks drag his time machine into the cave. So then when he finally goes back in time, his time machine has been pulled out into his yard. So it's not actually back inside his lab. It's about 20 feet.
So it does maintain its relative like position in space the whole time.
Well, I think something that I just was thinking about was if you go back in time past your existence, then maybe that is a calculation you need to consider.
You mean, so you're saying you're only sort of tied to
your physical existence.
Your
as a
physical
human being,
existence? I mean, that really
knock.
That really puts a limit on how useful time travel is if you can only do it within the span of your own life. That would be an interesting...
That is a lot of what people have been saying of why we have... Like, time travel never exists because we have never seen any time travelers. But a lot of people are saying that time travel can only exist in the time that that the technology has been created. So you can only move forward and backward in time is from when that's actually been developed.
But then you...
Because you can't go before the technology has been created.
But then how would you ever create it? Because you can't go back...
That'd be like being...
No, you can...
before the technology exists.
You can't go backwards before it, no. But you can move forward in time.
Sorry, the prevailing theory is that it's easier to... Oh, of course it's easier to move forward. Never mind, I just sounded like an idiot.
What do you mean, just?
Because you can only go to another time when that same technology exists.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I like that question a lot.
Me too.
That was awesome. Yeah, that's a ton of fun.
Good one, Hideki. We're going to go over to Reddit, where everything is awful and no one is happy.
Certainly not about Superman working out.
Wow, that's
incendiary comments.
Your Reddit description got a lot more negative recently.
What do you mean recently?
It used to be where everything's happy and no one's ever mean.
Oh, yeah. Well, I
think he actually went to Reddit.
I learned a couple things about Reddit the other day, you guys, and it is just a nightmare pit.
Hey, Argon Wild, man. It's not that bad.
But
it's okay.
Shiplord13 asks, how is anyone in the DC universe skeptical of aliens and magic?
I was thinking about this from a slightly different perspective. How is there any like rule of law? You know, like if the idea is that you can only be considered guilty if there's not a reasonable doubt, then like in a world where like there's a bunch of people that can like mind control, there's aliens, there's time travel, how is there ever not a reasonable doubt that something else committed the crime you committed? How is anyone getting put in prison?
Oh yeah, that drives me nuts in like almost every like movie and television show when they're just like when they still like get themselves tricked by people and they're just like like this time like Merlin, the BBC TV show Merlin, it drove me nuts because every single episode like somebody gets like a potion put on them where they suddenly act differently and then everyone's just like, oh, they're being real weird, and no one's just like, it's probably magic this time.
Right. Like, do you think there's any version of a
maybe she's born with it, maybe it's magic.
If let's say like tomorrow you learned that there is magic, or tomorrow like aliens landed and it made the news and it was sort of verifiable.
Oh, you think that wouldn't make the news?
Do you think you could ever be surprised by the same type of thing again? Like if a different type of alien showed up, would you be like, holy shit, and another one? Or would you just be like, yeah, there's aliens now? Would you just be blasé about it?
I think that's a little different question than the Reddit question.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, once the existence of aliens is verified, from that point on, you can't be surprised that there's more or different aliens around. The surprise is like why they're here, but once it happens once, that's the big reveal, and once the aliens are uncovered for the first time, after that it's just more of the same.
I'll give a specific comic book example, which is that Mr. Terrific who is like a science-based hero. He has mostly technology and things like that he uses. He does not believe in magic, even though there are a ton of heroes that he works with whose powers come from magic. He insists that magic is just like science we don't understand. Like, he has that kind of perspective on it. But like in comic books, magic is a separate thing, and it exists and it's proven, and he still like refuses to acknowledge it. Does that seem crazy, or is there
fucking Scully?
X-Files, yeah. Does that
every fucking time?
Does that track, or does that make him look like stupid for not acknowledging it?
I'm kind of with him on that.
Right.
Arthur C. Clarke said that any sufficiently advanced civilization will appear as magic.
Yeah.
And so I'm with him that magic. There has to be something that drives the magic,
right?
That appears to us as magic. So there has to be either some genetic thing, some mind ability, but something that drives the magic. So I'm with him on that. I'm skeptical of magic just being there and not having a scientific basis for it.
Right. That maybe, even though God definitively exists in DC Comics, that maybe it's just like a Star Trek V situation.
Not Star Trek V.
What does God need with Starship? Yeah.
Going to the next one, Gemadello. That's an interesting one. Why the heroes are never unmasked after they are captured or knocked unconscious. I know I would take a peek.
Well, you're nodding.
Absolutely. That would be the first thing I'd do is
hell yeah.
rip that bloody mask off and find out who's doing it.
Would you rip it off, or would you just like sneak a peek?
No, I'd tear it right off.
You'd full on expose somebody.
I'd tear it right off.
Okay.
And you're still like, I don't see it.
What?
Well, there's an episode of the Justice League cartoon where Lex and the Flash get their minds swapped, and so he runs. As the Flash, Lex runs to the washroom and takes the mask off and just goes, I have no idea who this is.
Yeah. Because Barry Allen's just some nobody. Like,
it's Wally in the show, but yeah, it's
still
idea,
nobody. Yeah.
So I mean, I do find that funny. In the comics, I think it's safe to assume that Batman has probably booby trapped his cowl, that even if you go to take it off, something will happen to you.
But I assume it's like, fingerprint, like that only he can take it off.
Something.
I mean, who could resist? Even if they're good superheroes, even if they've helped people, if they save the city,
you want to know. Yeah.
So let's flip the question then. What do you think would ever motivate you to preserve that mystery instead of, like, let's say you have an arch nemesis, you capture them. What do you think would be a reasonable motivator to not expose?
If I caught my arch nemesis, I would do it. There wouldn't be anything that would stop me.
There's nothing that would.
But if I saw the Flash unconscious on the ground and I was alone, I would see who it was. Perhaps if there were a crowd around and knowing how important secret identities are to them, I probably wouldn't.
You mean like as a bystander?
Right.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't expose him to a crowd, but if I was alone at the time, I would take a peek.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe. Yeah.
I think the real question for me is: am I the villain in this situation or the hero?
Well, I mean,
am I a villain approaching like?
Dad answered both. So, like, as a villain, is there anything that would stop you from revealing?
As a villain, I wouldn't do it because I'm obviously enough of a psychopath that I have an arch nemesis that I'm continually trying to beat, even though I keep getting beaten, and I finally get it. Well, obviously, I need this more than I need whatever I'm trying to accomplish to have that relationship with whoever this hero is. So I don't think that I could end that fight, and so I would just, much like what the Joker does constantly.
I was going to say, this sounds like almost like that, like, you complete me, Joker, Batman kind of thing.
Right, but if you then expose them, now you've got this whole other angle to defeat them. You've either got loved ones, family, friends.
It's true, yeah.
Now, if you're really looking to take on your nemesis, you've got this other angle you can get at them.
So I guess the real thing there is, what are you trying to accomplish then as the nemesis? If you want to beat them, then yeah, you obviously look. But if you just want to have a nemesis, then maybe you restrain yourself.
And I think that there's really
Because
like
that's kind of the Joker thing.
there's
Although
two.
the Joker
I think
did
there's
find out who Batman was.
there's really like two or three levels of villains within DC, which is the ones who like just doing crime and going through this whole process and are psychotic, the ones who are actually trying to destroy, like Doomsday, things like that, right? Like people who are actually trying to like end the world, and they don't show up as often because they're not technically trying to just do it over and over and over again, right? So I think that like it really depends on what type of villain you are.
Yeah.
The Joker is almost like a different category.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because it's almost his reason to exist is to fight Batman. But if you look at like Superman villains, or you look at Flash villains, they would happily destroy the Flash if they could. Their reason for existing isn't just, I know you're going to say about the Reverse Flash.
Oh my God. Psychic link.
So, okay, so maybe that was a bad example.
Father and son.
Well, no, I think you're right in general. Yes.
But the Joker Batman dynamic is different than other superheroes with arch nemesis who would gladly destroy them if they could.
Yeah.
I think that it'd be great to see the Joker, or like not the Joker. Let's like a different villain character have that opportunity and like not totally expose that person for who they are, but find out who they are, and then like you were saying earlier, like it gives you a whole new angle on how to fuck with somebody. Then you're like, I know who you are, I know who all your people are,
Which has happened.
and now you can just
anytime.
like thread by thread just tear that sweater apart until it's just nothing left but them just being like,
fucking kill me. That's kind of what Bane did to Batman in the 90s. Like he
yes,
no, not that guy.
I broke your back,
brother.
It's like Sean
It was back when he
Connery
was
Bane.
more the luchador Bane.
Always with the guns.
Yeah. But I mean, Bane basically did that. He figured out he deduced who Batman was. He broke all the villains out of Arkham. He exhausted Batman and then like met him in the Batcave and broke his back. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think that does make an interesting story to watch someone not just immediately go on TV and be like, I know who it is, but actually like play off of it.
This just in.
Yeah.
Next question.
Sorry, did you? Oh, okay.
Yep. No, we're good. A Black Raptor asks. It seems like a lead to a terrible joke.
I'm not going there.
The biggest one for me, and it's not just DC really, but the I can't tell my family who I am secret identity thing, particularly when it's a singular character they insist must never know. Why? What benefit does it really have?
I think we can actually do both parts of this question as one because I think they're related.
And then this also leads to a second one, the breaking up with lovers because they're in danger thing. Are they not safer knowing who you are, but also being in close proximity because you can protect them?
There's a ton of examples of this one. I have to keep my secret identity secret from you specifically.
Iris West.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one we're all thinking of. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, do you think it's that only exists because they have to make the cliche of having a secret identity, or what is the reason that every hero has just one person they have to lie to?
Intolerable suffering.
They have to lie to.
I think Iris said there's actually an explanation. Well, at least the TV does it well, which is like the one time he finally does it is when everything gets fucked up. So I think that is constantly running through his head that like,
right. That's the first time he travels back in time.
Yeah. So I think that's probably going through his head a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
You know, with the divorce rates nowadays, you tell someone that you're a superhero, you get a breakup, you get a divorce, now all of a sudden she wants half your costume.
Well, do you know what?
What do you do?
I know you're saying
you're not the man I married.
I know you're saying this jokingly, but I think that actually touches on what's really happening. Is it's not. They say it's to protect someone else, but really it makes it easier on them. They can sort of be like when that person gets captured, be like, oh, it's a coincidence, and like they don't have to bear their own responsibility for choosing that.
One of my
life,
or if something goes awry in their life as a superhero, and they need space, they need to move, something has to happen. As cruel as it is to just walk out on someone, ultimately it's easier for them if they don't have to deal, if the person left behind doesn't have to deal with knowing that they're a superhero.
Yeah, I think what we're...
Are you kidding me?
Wait,
What?
I want to hear this. Yeah.
So if let's say, for example, your dad was a superhero and he was like, okay, I've got to get as far away from you guys as possible, but I don't want for you to know that the reason I'm leaving is for a noble reason. You'd rather that they just think that you sucked, that you just were being selfish, than like, listen, trust me.
At least they wouldn't come looking for you.
Of course
Get
they
yourself
would.
caught up in the danger.
Of course they would come. They would always be looking. That's the thing.
Right.
No, I think leaving them behind, knowing that you're a superhero, how can they internalize that you've left, you've got all these powers,
Chosen
and you
a
still
higher
have
calling.
chosen
Okay,
to
so
leave
let's
them?
put this in a different perspective then. Let's say, for example, someone was like, I don't know, in the military, for example, and kept that from their family. And then one day they were like, listen, I've got to go for a little bit. Don't worry, I'll be back like super soon. Orange juice can't be that hard to find in the city. And they just disappear. They go overseas. They get like blown to smithereens, for example. I don't know. And they just never come back. Well, yeah, but it's like a similar kind of concept, is that like you're expecting the worst case scenario in that thing. So it's like, would you rather like leave them like knowing that they were like proud of you and that you were going off to do something noble, or that just like I don't know. It just seems like such a strange thing to do.
I do think there's a side that, like both of you, I do think superheroes think they're doing a noble thing by keeping that secret. And I also agree that they are not. Like, especially it'd be one thing if they kept the secret from everyone, but especially in the case of the Flash, by the time Iris finds out, literally everyone else in his life knows.
Yeah.
So really, at that point, it's really not about keeping people safe. It's about something more selfish than that. Even though I'm sure Barry never, like, he still feels like he's doing the right thing. I'm sure it's not like malicious, but if you keep the secret from everyone, then yeah, maybe it is kind of noble. But the more people you let in on that, the flimsier that argument
Well,
is.
and the first person you should tell is like your person. You know what I mean?
You would
Like,
think, although that divorce point is like, that's pretty solid.
but let's also go back to the fact that there's like magic and aliens and, you know, comic book logic.
Lots of memory erasures that happen too. Yeah, that's true.
I think that like there's a piece of media that like really like answers this question, or at least like tackles it really, really well, is the movie The Incredibles.
Okay, yeah.
That whole movie is partly addressing that issue, whether it's like keeping it from your own family, like keeping it from like just your wife, keeping it from the government. Like one of my favorite things is the I can't remember, the ice guy.
Frozone.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is when he's like, when he keeps trying to like fight crime and his wife is just like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Well, he's like, where's my super suit?
yeah. Or have you seen the trailers for the new one that's coming out?
I'm pretty excited.
And he's like, I'll be right there. You'll be where? You better be right back is where you'll be.
I do think you're both right, but I think there is a point to be made that maybe someone would be safer if you were like, listen, I'm the Flash. A villain is going to find out who I am, and they might come after you because I care about you.
Just
so
a
at
heads
least
up.
if a supervillain comes after you, that's why. You can at least have that in the back of your head. You're not totally unprepared
It's
for
like
it.
if you're Batman's person and you're like in the library and you're like, that guy with the green hair over there, he looks a little menacing.
And he keeps staring at me.
Listen, when I fight crime, all I do is put on this little domino mask and a Robin Hood hat, so it's pretty likely that someone's going to figure out. that it's-
Back to Green Arrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
We really have a bone to pick with that one. don't we?
Nothing against Superman, though. That's good. Let's get on to the next question. Simort asks, why do guys with guns never aim at Batman's unprotected mouth?
I mean, he's not wrong.
I think
it's just like
big,
it's hard to
stupid
shoot that well.
Okay, so is
it?
that your answer? That it's just a matter of aim?
Yeah.
Like maybe they are trying and they're
Just who
it's
can,
a moving target.
Who can shoot him directly in the mouth when it's Batman? Like, not only is it like just a regular person just be like, like
sure. Yeah. Well, and as we know, henchmen are lousy shots to begin with.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like you're like really digging in for like the top tier like talent right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Deadshot, I guess, and why hasn't he been able to?
But definitely at the goon level, they've got no shot.
No.
I mean, does that? Do you have a different sort of like theory or?
No, actually, that's right on because anyone who's kind of learned to shoot is told to shoot at the biggest target.
Yeah.
So it's not the mouth. But now we're just talking with guns. But of course, in the comic book thing, you've got lasers. Lasers are easy to aim and sweep with.
Yeah, like guiding almost. Like you can see the target.
Yeah.
I think the only way to respond to that is it's also Batman too. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's agile.
There is a little bit of that.
And has technology that probably addresses a lot of these issues.
Have you played Arkham Knight?
Yeah, I have.
So in Arkham Knight, they actually address this.
I don't remember that, but sure.
There's a story point where he talks about that the big bat on his chest, it sort of like subconsciously
we've addressed this.
makes people shoot at it. It's like
that's right.
It's like a subconscious response.
Yes, we just want to shoot at the bat.
And then in the story, Gordon is made by the Scarecrow to kill Batman, and he shoots him in the most protected, most armored part of him.
Yeah, and then there's the George Clooney suit where he's like, "Which do you shoot, the nipples or the bat?"
or the cod piece. Do I shoot nips or cod?
And then by the time that you even make a decision, he's already gone.
You know what they say: 2 in the nips, 1 in the cod.
Yeah, I mean,
classic kill shot.
As far as comic book like explanations go, it's also not airtight, but I think that they have maybe tried to imply that like
a codpiece sure is.
Instead of just being a guy dressed as a bat who drew a bat symbol on, it serves like a tactical purpose. There's a good other version. Is like Lex Luthor has that big armored suit and there's no helmet.
No helmet.
It's just
true. Yeah,
it's just his bald head peeking out of this giant armored suit. And in Forever Evil, a relatively recent series, I think Deadshot puts a gun to his head and he said, "It must just kill you." The idea that people wouldn't know it's you. He's like, "You spend all this money on a suit, and I could kill you right now."
Why didn't you just put like a clear bubble over it? Like I don't.
Yeah, or a force field, or maybe Lex has one, but yeah, I think there's something to the idea that it's either like a character flaw or something like that. Maybe people don't want to lose themselves in the mask, or I don't know. I think all of those are basically just like you make up a story reason. But yeah, if I were a bad guy and I was familiar with Batman and how he operated, I would probably at least try to shoot him in the mouth. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that one alone.
Yeah, I bet you shoot him in the mouth.
Jesus. I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, okay.
Sure you didn't.
And on to the next and last question.
He's pretty cut, though. Sorry, go on.
Your dad's in the room.
You're the one that did it. We finally captured him.
Yeah.
Chimerica Industry asks, where is Superman keeping the cape and boots when he's in his street clothes? No way either of those is fitting under his suit when he's at the planet. And yet he has them whenever he rips his shirt open.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's wearing the suit, but yeah, he doesn't have like a weird like cape tuck look or anything like that.
It's obviously in the phone booth.
Well, Dad and I were talking about this. I'll ask this question of all three of you. When Superman, let's imagine the phone booth scenario where he changes super quick and he flies out. Does he go into the phone booth, take off his Clark Kent clothes, and then also like he's got the Superman suit, and then also take off the Superman suit, put on the Clark Kent clothes, and then put on the super suit over it? Or is he leaving Clark Kent clothes all over the city?
I like to think that he has a few choice, but I mean, remember, he's also insanely fast. So he probably has a few like places that he hides shit around the city. Maybe there's little compartments inside some of these phone booths.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there was an episode in the old George Reeves Superman where he was out, I think in like the Nevada desert or something, and he had his Clark Kent clothes tucked inside the cape. There was like pockets in the cape.
Cape pockets.
And then he pulled
That's very fashion.
Very, yeah.
That's very fashion. That's like Milan runway cape pockets. But I think there are. I mean, Superman has powers. The Flash, his ring has his suit in it, and he can change at super speed. But if you're like if you're Green Arrow, Batman, and you're out and you need to be a superhero, like, what are your options? That's kind of tough. I mean, Green Lantern can just make an outfit, but yeah.
I think that he hides them in the stall next to Miss Doubtfire's stall in...
that they're both just like...
Yeah, at Danville's Bridges restaurant.
Right. So he's like, there's a building on fire 2 blocks away, and then in the next stall, it's like, "Hoo-doo." Right. Yeah, I mean,
And you can look that up. That's verifiable.
so you talked about the cape and the pockets, but the other half of that George Reeves one is he would often just change in the closet at the Daily Planet. Was there ever an episode where like someone like went to the closet when he went to change, or like found his Clark Kent clothes when he was out as Superman? Was that ever like a thing in that
Trapped
show?
in the closet?
No, no one ever went into the storeroom when he was in.
Yeah.
I do remember episodes where he has a secret compartment in his closet at home where he's got spare Superman costumes hanging.
Right.
So I guess there's a total of 3, assuming he always wears one under.
Yeah.
Who's his dry cleaner?
I saw 2 hanging in the closet. So he's got at least 3 Superman outfits.
Right.
I also like the idea that people are walking around just seeing like, oh my God, there's a streaker.
Yeah.
or they think they got raptured. I don't know.
Or is he wearing a diaper? It's all like bunched up on his ass.
Yeah, because he's got to tuck the cape in. Yeah.
Superman's got back.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Yo, Clark, you thick.
Clark Big Booty Kent. Yeah.
That's right.
And then does he have to?
He does
he have
shake
to
what his
buy-
mama gave him.
Does Clark Kent have to buy shoes like 3 or 4 sizes bigger to fit the boots?
Well,
into
exactly.
the shoes?
So it's one thing to say that maybe there are pockets in the cape. Maybe that's where he tucks his Clark Kent clothes. Maybe he has to tuck the cape and he's really good at folding it or something. But yeah, the boots seem problematic. Where would he keep the boots?
I'm telling you, compartments around town.
Well, it's like, and it's
Right.
also, there's, if you've ever seen an emergency blanket, for example.
Sure.
They come in those little, like, square packs.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Maybe he's just like,
The
waste one of
boots?
those.
The
Yes.
boots.
Some sort of Kryptonian freeze dry technology. And
Maybe.
he's, like vacuum.
Or maybe it's like
sealing.
those bowls, you know,
What
for
about those-
dogs that like you can pop out.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Or like those inflatable dinosaurs that we had as kids. You just dip them in water.
That's the
Oh.
key.
He just spits on them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
Aquaman, where are you?
Boots.
Yeah, interesting. I always thought it was kind of funny that Martian Manhunter basically like is constantly nude, but then like when he shapeshifts, he's wearing clothes. But if he's like in his human form and you like touch his sleeve, you're still like just touching a nude Martian.
Just a naked dude.
Yeah.
It's like the Emperor's new clothes kind of thing.
Yeah, a little.
Except for everyone else is the
Except
Emperor.
everyone else can see them, and he just knows he's naked.
He's
Yeah.
like, oh, it just touched me. I'm totally
the,
naked.
the reverse Emperor's new clothes. Yeah, he's like, I'm nothing at all.
Nothing at all. It just feels like nothing at all.
in X-Men with Mystique.
Yeah.
Same way she shapeshifts into clothes.
Yeah.
And then she shifts back to her own form. So yeah, she's always naked.
Yeah. Yeah, must be a
Crazy.
weird situation for them, not for everyone else, because everyone else sees the clothes. But if you're just Martian Manhunter, you'd be like, I've never worn pants, even though I'm doing it right now. Yeah.
Boy, do I feel free.
Do you think this is a weird tangent question? Do you think when Martian Manhunter shapeshifts into a human wearing pants and a shirt, do you think he shapeshifts so that there's a gap between them, or is the shirt like attached to his body? You know what I mean?
weird.
Like it's like a fake,
Like in the
fringe or
90s, he had some
collar?
like baggy shit going
Or
on.
is it like a onesie?
Or you know those shirts that like have the undershirt sewn in?
Yes.
Is it like that but with his body? Or does he actually make the whole gap like that he could take off a piece of him?
That's so Randy River. Ugh.
I think they're attached. I think if you go to undress a shapeshifted Martian Manhunter, you're in for a shock.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I think if you're
you're
going to
gonna
do that,
peel
there's
his
lots
goddamn
lots
skin
of shocks that you're going to.
Yeah, I guess that's the
The
least
clothes is the least of your.
that's the least of the problems, yeah. Be weird if you took his shirt off though and then he shapeshifted back. It's just like his hand. It's just like over on the ground. He's like, oh, just gotta put that back on.
So I have one question for you. What is the biggest inconsistency that bothers you the most in DC Comics?
You've mentioned the Superman muscle one. I know that's a big one. But is there another?
No, I started with my best stuff at the beginning of the show.
Blew his load right at the beginning.
material out of
And
the
I
gate.
got nothing.
Because I
left.
remember the doctor saying something about like it bothering you that like the Flash it like when he moves really fast. There was something about that. I think.
Well, I think
The, like the helmet?
Your thing, especially with the show, beyond just that he stops to monologue to criminals instead of just arresting them, is that, you know, the show there's this progression that he gets faster and faster or unlocks new abilities. And I know your thing is, why doesn't he always just run the fastest? That was your thing with Star Trek too. Why would you ever do a warp other than 9? Just always move fastest. Get there first.
Star Trek, because warp 1 is the speed
Dave
of
Rossi,
light.
if you're listening, this is a direct question for you.
So start a podcast.
Warp 1 is the speed of light. If you're going warp 1, if we were going to Alpha Centauri, it would take us 4.5 years to get there.
Yeah.
Warp 1 is the most useless speed there is.
Yeah. Yeah, once you've developed a warp faster, why would you ever be slower?
That's like saying I'm going to crawl there instead of walk.
Well,
yeah.
exactly. And I think that's your thing with the Flash too, is like this season we saw that Flash time, which was like, that's the fastest he's ever moved. Everything else was basically still and he could move around the world. It's like, why aren't you always doing that? There should be no version of this where you could be outpaced.
I know in the show, again, for the same thing about stopping and monologuing with the criminal, because it's a TV show.
Yeah.
You have to be entertaining. But when you watch him zigzag through the streets, he can go faster than light. You shouldn't be able to see him zigzag through the streets.
Sure, yeah.
It's just light.
He's just there. Yeah.
He's just there. So that's why I say some of these inconsistencies stick out more in TV than they do in the comics, because you do have to. It's a visual medium more than the comics, so you're
seeing the actual motion. Yeah.
One of the things that I do love about the Flash TV show that they do address is like that he's constantly eating.
Yes.
His metabolism would have to be
Although
insane.
they didn't really do that since
in the beginning. I remember
season.
them. Yeah,
since the first season.
I guess it's just implied now, but
I do love that.
Yes.
Like, because I mean, just like he would need to be. I think what they should really be doing is any scene he's in, he's eating or just finishing eating.
they do bring that up in Justice League as well. When you meet the Flash in that movie, he starts eating a pizza, and then later he's like, "Guys, my blood sugar." After they fight Superman, and then. Weirdly, even the 1990 CBS Flash TV show addresses how much he has to eat.
I'm glad that they're doing it. One of the things that they don't address, though, in the Flash TV show is they're in the prison for all the supervillains.
Yeah.
There's no bathrooms in any of the, like, there's no toilet in any of the, like,
the cells?
Yeah, the cells.
Well, there's also no chairs, no seats, no beds.
It's pretty grim in Iron Heights.
Grim.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Oh, sorry. You mean in the pipeline in Starlight?
Yeah, in the pipeline. Yeah. One of the things apparently like that was in a scene I recently heard in an interview with Grant Gustin was that apparently there was a scene they filmed where they were they're feeding them. Well, it was more of just like Frost or whatever had like a thing of Big Belly burgers and was just like, oh, gotta feed them. But that also brings the implication that they're just feeding them fast food every meal.
Yeah. So when you see like if you go back into the pipeline like 4 seasons later, they're all just like,
yeah. Even if you do get out, you're not doing shit.
I guess one of the inconsistencies is who pays these people? They have to live
That's
their
the
lives.
thing too, yeah.
They have to live their lives.
After
they,
Wells is gone too, like...
Well, not just at the Flash, but they all have apartments.
Yep.
They all have lives. They all have to go out and do a restaurant.
Being a news reporter
and buy
does
food.
not pay very well.
So, like, who pays them? Yeah, Clark Kent's got a job. Barry's got a job. But for a lot of them, you know, who pays the bills? Who keeps the light on?
Yeah. No,
well, what they don't show in the Flash is when Barry goes, wow, you know, I mean, he's like, there was nothing in this that said I couldn't take the money that these guys stole.
Yeah.
He's a crooked cop. It's okay.
Weird take.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's lots of those things. And the more you think about it, the more you could probably like pick those things like apart. There's always...
What about you? What's the one that sticks in your craw the most?
Beyond the Green Arrow one.
Oh, you can see beyond that?
Only barely. The rage mist is parting just ever so slightly.
I can see clearly now the arrow's gone.
I don't know what the biggest inconsistency would be to me.
What's one that comes up?
Maybe one that I think the thing with if you can shapeshift, like how do you? I wonder like how much you have to think about it. I wonder like if your organs move on the inside. Like I'm thinking.
I remember you mentioning that.
I'm thinking about like someone like Beast Boy or whatever. Like if you shapeshift into another animal, like if you're moving beyond mammals or even within mammals, like
do your organs change?
There are different like body functions. So is he completely reconstituting himself, or is he just like assuming the shell and like the primary power of an animal, or like if he turns into a cow, does he have the 4-chamber stomach? Does he have to like chew and swallow his food like 4 times? Or, if he changes into like a salamander, would he have the ability to like lay eggs? If he changes into a starfish, could he regrow himself? But he couldn't regrow himself if he was a rhino. Like how, I wonder, I feel like I don't know how deep those like animal shape-shifting powers go.
And what kind of like mental gymnastics do you have to do to shapeshift? Is there like a formula in your head for a particular animal that you have to actually run through so you can change every molecule in your body?
Or do you only have to exert the effort to change and then you can relax? Like, oh, I'm a rhino now, and you can just stay that way until you have to think about being a person again? Or are you concentrating the whole time, or you lose your form? Firestorm, who can transmute elements, it's established in the comic books that if he doesn't know the chemical composition of something, he can't turn something into that. He has to know he has to know that salt is NaCl, and then he can turn glass into
with
salt.
Element Lad in the Legion.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I wonder sometimes about that for shapeshifters.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, Colin.
I imagine this is what it'd be like to hang out with Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg, but different.
Just slightly.
Which of us is Snoop?
Do you ever think
I think
about
we know.
My dad is Snoop.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%
Hell
that's
yeah.
Snoop Dogg.
I'm Willie Nelson.
That's neither of those is a complete loss. And for you, either is an upgrade.
Colin,
Yes.
as someone that I forced to read comic books,
Yeah.
what is like an inconsistent thing, or something that seems like flippant?
Illogical, yeah.
Let's not use Ultra Comics, but beyond that, what's something that bugs you that you wish comic book writers would just like explain
Address,
a bit more?
yeah.
That's a tough one for me, having not read enough, I think.
Well, but just from your experience, yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Cool story.
Yeah.
That's about as good of a Colin answer as we usually get.
I think probably just like the whole thing of people's alter egos, like which one is the alter ego, which one is the person.
Right.
Like that whole thing is always troubling for me.
What they see themselves as.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some awesome questions today.
Yeah, that was great.
Those were like, that definitely brought up like anything that was, at least in my mind, things, and like ones that I never even thought of, like that Hideki, that's fucking awesome. Yeah, I never even thought of that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Do we know what the episode next week is going to be?
Next week's episode is another, we're doing another Fanstravaganza. We're catching up on some questions we haven't gotten to.
Classic.
Yeah.
It's the next part of Fanagar. But yeah, I mean, I had a ton of fun with this one. This is what happens when like my dad and I talk about comics like on our own, is that it's usually like, this bothers me, why is it this? And then we kind of just complain about it or try to figure it out. Or,
I wish I could have remembered more of those when I came here.
No, but that's the thing.
But it's true. It's true. We just start talking to him because I know he knows everything about DC World, so I'm constantly just throwing questions at him. Why isn't this happening? Why does this person do this? And he nails it.
As like a nerd dad, is there just like a twinkle in your eye where it's just like when like a father like who was like the captain of the football league and the dad and the son suddenly becomes a football player? Is there a moment like that where you're just like, yes?
I have to imagine.
Do you feel like Tom Brady's dad?
I do.
Yeah,
I'm immensely proud of his DC knowledge, and I'm always calling him for it.
Oh, although there was the one time that he said that I sounded like a 6-year-old, which is when I was explaining a story to him, and I was like, and Firestorm gets stabbed it's Shadow Thief stabs Firestorm with Shining Knight's magic sword, and he just straight up laughed at me. He was like, "You sound like a child."
You sound like a 10-year-old, all excited, and he stabs him with the magic sword and Firestorm.
I can see that.
That's really fun. So if people want to send in questions, when's the next episode people can send questions in for?
That's so depending on where we are right now with the thing coming out, we're actually like, we may have announced what the final theme of Fanagar is.
Yes.
And if that is the case, you will have seen that post and you can send your questions. But right now, we're just getting suggestions for what that theme. Well, right now, we're still taking suggestions for what that theme will be. We're getting some great ones. But yeah, basically, I think by the time this one comes out,
We'll
have already.
So you guys will be like, yeah, we already know. Stop talking.
So you'll be hearing us blab about a thing we don't know, and you know. You
You're
already know.
so
it.
far ahead.
Turn off the podcast.
You're so cool. Well, you're so cool.
You're the expert now.
Dash will turn off the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, we were so late with that one.
Well, okay, so beyond from this episode whenever you're listening to this episode and you already know what the next one, there's going to be another one after that when Fanagar is done, I would assume at that point.
And that one after Fanagar is going to be artifacts and items of power, which we were going to do before, and it got postponed. Colin had a reading assignment.
Stumpy, you get to finally hear about it.
Yeah, so Colin read, and we'll likely have to reread.
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna have to reread.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Dial H number 1, and then we'll be talking about artifacts and items of power, and that'll be the first episode after Fanagar, so the first episode in July.
So you have a ton of time to start asking questions about that, and you can do so through our many various media formats online, such as,
For example, Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast,
Instagram-ish,
Dr. DC Podcast,
Twitter,
at Dr. DC,
the email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
or make sure you go to iTunes. That's where you can give us a 5-star review.
Put your feet up. This is a long section.
and also you forgot about our website.
Well, you never point at me for that.
drdcpodcast.com.
You point at me for iTunes. That's your fault. That's not on me. So again,
I point at you to listen.
go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, say something that we can repeat on the podcast. Whether it's appropriate or not, I do not care. I think iTunes will probably block it out if it's racist. So make sure you go and do that.
Maybe.
You can also find us on all of
Did they get rid of a bunch of our episodes?
Yeah, probably.
From the beginning. Maybe.
You're listening to the first episode of the Dr. DC podcast.
It's the last.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if anywhere that you need to find us, we'll be there. Any of the podcast places that exist, Spotify is the Google Play is the,
Libsyn,
podcore.com. I don't know.
Have I offended Reddit or something? Like, why have we not been
We just haven't been
invited?
asking them questions.
Are we not invited to be like a thing there yet?
No.
Do you mean invite? You think we're big enough for like an AMA or something on Reddit?
I don't know.
He's so far removed from his podcast, yet he doesn't.
We're big enough to have a goddamn pizza party.
Colin thinks he's in the Beatles right now.
Colin, that's where Colin lives before his podcast even started.
Yeah, I was already there.
But I want to thank you, Dad, for coming on the show. You've traveled a long way specifically to be on this show and for no other
Specifically,
reason.
That's right.
no,
That's
no.
right.
You know, it's been,
Long awaited.
It's been a blast, and I'm always happy to listen to you guys, and you're amazing.
Awesome. Well,
thank
you're welcome back. He wasn't talking about
That's
you.
the best 5-star review we've ever gotten.
That's right.
Yeah,
Oh,
do you mind putting that on iTunes? We really need that.
we seriously need the help.
We
seriously.
could use that.
Remember, if we get you 52 reviews, we're going to make Colin read Superman for all
We're
seasons.
so far away. We're at like 10?
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Well, I'm guessing. Was I right?
I think we're less, but it's fine. All right.
well, some kind of sign off.
Adios.
I'm already gone.
Oh,
He had to come back into the room for that. Yeah.
Oh, and he brought it out.
Oh, God.
Amazing.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.